camps. Now, speaking of the United Nations, it has refuted claims that it has ignored the crisis in the camps for internally displaced persons in South Sudan. A spokesperson for the organization added that it was, quote, a huge logistical challenge to run a peacekeeping mission and also take care of the thousands of people who've been displaced by the violence there. Now, the comments come shortly after the charity organization Médecins Sans Frontières, or Doctors Without Borders, criticized the UN mission in South Sudan for not moving 21,000 displaced persons fast enough from a UN base to safer ground before the rainy season. It's estimated that at least 70,000 civilians are currently seeking shelter in UN compounds across South Sudan.
I think as far as Juba and South Sudan in general, our peacekeeping colleagues, our humanitarian colleagues are really doing their utmost to help people voluntarily move to better parts, to improve the facilities and what they have access to in the camps. It's a huge logistical challenge to run a peacekeeping mission, to also take care of these thousands and thousands of people who really who would not have survived had the UN not opened its gates, had the Secretary General not said to open the gates and give them shelter.
Let's get some more clarity on the argument made by MSF, and now joined live in studio by Will Robertson. He is MSF's Program Manager for South Sudan. Thank you very much for your time this evening.
Good evening.
MSF, not particularly known for hard-hitting statements. What data prompted you to make these particular criticisms of the United Nations mission in South Sudan?
MSF has been working in these camps like Tomping in Juba since the onset of the crisis. Over the period of time, we've made more and more bilateral efforts to try and raise with greater urgency the need to secure non-floodplain sites that are going to be protected against flooding from the wet season. This has not happened. We need to secure the livelihoods and also the life-saving shelter of these people who are in the UN camps. There will be a marked increase in mortality, in infectious disease and mortality. So we needed the urgency to be raised, and this was our effort to raise the urgency.
So is it that the United Nations simply refused to act, or some other reasons came up for them not to actually act with the urgency that you say the situation deserves?
The UN has many hats inside South Sudan. We need significant investment into humanitarian intervention. There are over 700,000 people internally displaced in country, of around 70,000 who are seeking sanctuary inside UN compounds. The one we're talking about hosts around 21,000, of which only around 1,100 have been moved in 5 weeks. The remaining people will not be able to be sustainably removed according to the plan. There is an alternative opportunity which should be explored that is viable to secure them from unnecessary infectious disease and mortality. So we need to raise this issue. We are on a race against time.
Right. You've heard the response there from the UN saying that this is an enormous logistical challenge to run a peacekeeping mission on one hand, and at the same time take care of some 70,000 plus people who've been displaced by the conflict. What's your reaction to that?
They certainly have a very large mandate, and it's a diverse mandate having different areas of peacekeeping and also on the humanitarian side. MSF deals with the humanitarian implications, and we are getting gravely concerned by what is happening in South Sudan. The UN plan is around 22% funded. It will need to be really tightened up onto emergency response by the time the rains come in June. By that stage, only 60% of the roads will be accessible. Material will have to be sent in by plane, which is extraordinarily expensive. At the moment, only 5% of necessary food is pre-positioned. There are grave concerns for the greater future of South Sudan in 2014. This needs to be addressed broader than just the UN.
When you say 22% funded, I mean, wouldn't it essentially be fair, therefore, to argue that it's not just the UN that's failing South Sudan, it's really the broader international community?
That's a fair point. I would agree.
All right. We'll have to leave it there for the time being. Thank you very much for your time this evening. Will Robertson from MSF.